Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's edition of Coffee Talk with my good friend Pauline and our special guest star, Stephen Hawkins. So,
Yes.
everybody, yes, we'll get a big
Yes.
round of applause. And
Woo!
Stephen bows now that he has full mobility. He likes to use that. Um, today when I asked him about what kind of song that he would like to play that would represent him, and he said, just the Star Wars theme.
I can imagine.
Yeah, so he's anxious to be interviewed. I have to tell you how I see him tonight. He's a younger man, and his body is perfect, and his smile is perfect. And he looks at me and he laughs and he goes, "We do a lot more fixing in heaven than just the obvious crap." And he's happy, and he has a very calm and polite demeanor, and he speaks with a very soft British accent.
Anything special he's wearing?
Well, he has on a blue shirt, like a collared shirt with a gray jacket. He looks very dapper.
Like an Englishman.
Like an Englishman, yes, that's true. He said, "I am what I am."
He's the rock star of the universe. I love
Oh, he likes that. He said, "Thank you very much." He says, "Now I've met Mick Jagger." Mick Jagger was still here, though. And he goes, "Yes, but I have met everybody in spirit. The crazy thing is, I've
Yeah.
met so many people there on Earth when I was alive, but now it's just opened up into something that I like to refer to as the multiverse, and I'll call it the multiverse of personalities." So he likes
That's
to talk.
insight.
Yeah,
That's great insight.
yeah, he likes to talk.
All right, we'll get along.
Yeah, yeah. So anything, he's ready, and he rubs his hands together and he gives me a big
All
smile. He
right.
says, "Let's do this."
What, is Eric with us too?
Eric is always with us, and they've already met, obviously, when you go back to be all with, one with the all. But Eric says, fascinating. He's just fascinating.
Yes, isn't he?
He is. So, all right. He's ready. Let's go with some questions.
But I just thought maybe we can start off with the death experience and who met him and um, how it was presented to him when he crossed over. Did he have a review?
So, he laughs a little bit because he says everybody knows that, or has read about me, knows anything about me, understands that I was a hardcore atheist. So, quite interestingly enough, um, as was in life, my brain was quite active after death, and I realized no, there was more to this, and there was. I don't want to say God. He's struggling with a termination for God, because he says not everybody believes that. One with the all, he says, but definitely not nothing.
Right, and that's what he wrote about. That it had to be something, but not
Yes,
nothing.
definitely not nothing. And I had no expectations of what it would be like when I went over there. But what I did do is I met my parents, my mom
Oh,
and my
yes.
dad. He says, and I was whole, and there was nothing wrong with my body. He calls it me body, and he says everything was as it should be. Um, And immediately I realized that I had left behind the shell uh, that I had been occupying
Yeah.
for that time space continuum that you call human existence.
Yeah, 50 years almost, I think, with the ALS. So it must have been very
55.
hard. Oh, my bad.
It's okay, he said. Um, Time in here is not like it is there.
Right. And that's one of my questions, but we'll wait. Um, I see too. Now we started with the death. Now let's start with his birth as Stephen. I read that he was born on the 300th anniversary of Galileo, and I just think that's just too much coincidence. Was that contracted to be part of that that reality in this world?
He says that which we know here is not a coincidence ever. Nothing is by
Right.
coincidence.
Right.
And there is mathematical sequence, mathematical meaning to everything in the universe, the multiverse, the nanoverse, the everything verse. Mathematics plays quite the role in everything.
Yeah, I wanted to hear it from him. I just knew, and I knew he wanted to study that at Oxford. I don't think they offered it at first, so I knew math was his one passion he didn't start with.
He says, yes, and numbers were everything to me. And it was how I understood life was through numbers, you see. So it was quite normal to it was quite normal for me to expand beyond just my limited space with numbers to then think that if this is how it applies to my life here, how does it apply to the next realm and the space? And that's how I thought in numbers. It was kind of like how Leonardo da Vinci would think in painting and color and in proportion.
Right. I think I read that he believed in at least 11 dimensions. Is that correct?
Oh my gosh, he just gave me the biggest smile. He says, he goes like this, he goes 11.
Well, now.
Right now, that's why he's smiling. He says, had I known this, he says, but here is the biggest misconception as people understand it on Earth. There are multi dimensions. There are more than 11.
Right.
However, they all exist at the same time, and all is one, and one is all, is what I learned when I came over here. So even though there are multi dimensions, they all exist at the same time within the same space. Mm-hmm. It's mind blowing, even for me when I got here.
That's the hardest for all of us. It's not linear time. So I can see how that's.
So he wants to talk about something though for this linear time. He says, you all knew my energy as Dr. Stephen Hawking's, a brilliant mathematician and a theorist, and before I came to be here in this earth time, I had previous lifetimes to live, and I had information to impart and to share with everybody in this time, space, reality. I achieved that. I achieved that, and what I have achieved is still to come. When they understand the relation between the disease that my body had and the will that my mind had to fight that.
And I think it's all going to come to be later when we realize more. And that was one of my questions as well. He's getting before me here. What lifetime would he say would benefit him and as Stephen? what lifetime previous, or I hate to say previous, but another lifetime that
Time.
affected this lifetime.
He's talking about how you were speaking of Galileo and the numbers and how it's not a coincidence. He said that and he had shared the experience with Galileo at the time as his apprentice.
Oh, okay. I thought he actually could be him.
He says no, that was not what was his journey, but he studied under Galileo.
That's great. That's so interesting. And his parents, I'm sure we all choose our parents, and his mother seemed to be such an extreme woman who went to Oxford in the 30s when women weren't even allowed into certain places. So I'm sure he had a close relationship with her.
Um, he says, well, where it comes to parents, I did hit the lottery, but you know that with all of the positives, what people don't see behind closed doors or what they struggle with, and as smart, my mother was incredibly brilliant, but there are other areas that she struggled with socially,
Yeah.
and my father the same, but I hit the lottery. They loved me, and I learned a lot from them, and I retained and got what genetically I needed from their DNA to be who I was.
Was today, or
Yeah.
yeah. And I see he had. I'm not sure if it was his siblings in him, or it, did they raise B and make fireworks or something like that? Was that with his parents or with his wife and children? I think this was his parents. They didn't live in like a big place or anything. I think they were just a lot of busy people, so they didn't have a lot
I
to do in
I
a
missed
house. But
I missed the question. I'm sorry. I couldn't hear.
did they raise, it said they like raised or cultivated bees and made fireworks.
Oh, yes. And what he says is, they became like pets to us, the bees. So we
Oh,
cultivated them, and it became a family kind of a process where we observed their colonies and how they interacted and made the honey. And the fireworks are kind of like an offshoot on that. And he giggles a little. He says, to be a good beekeeper, you have to know how to control smoke. And
oh,
in
I
the
never, I see
quest,
the crumbling.
and in the quest to figure out how to control the smoke
Uh-huh.
and cultivate the bees and that kind of thing, we figured out, how to manufacture some fireworks.
I didn't
That's
see
what
the
happens
correlation
when
between the two
scientists live
different.
in a family. You get these kind of experiences, and he gives me the feeling of looking back on that fondly, like he really appreciated that about his parents and his childhood.
That's just awesome. I thought it was awesome. Okay. I did read that he was diagnosed with, I guess they call it ALS now. It was Lou Gehrig's back, I guess, when we were
Hmm.
younger. In 1963. Um, I'm sorry, I gotta put my little readers on. I'm blind now. He said that he had a dream too, that he was being executed, and it changed his life forever. Like he became more focused. Can you tell me how you beat the odds of 55 years with this disease when they said he only had 2 years to live when he was in his 20s, I believe?
Excuse me.
I can guess, but I want to hear
Well,
what he says.
um, so he says the dream of death brought his mind to the realization that each day is a gift,
Mm-hmm.
and that why waste each day? Because there are some people who are that limited that would think that because this body has this disease, that it would take them in 2 years. But the difference between them and I is that my mind and I had the agreement that since my mind was in control of the disease, of what could be done with the disease, that my mind was going to overtake it and stay alive no matter what. My mind was kind of like Pinky in the brain when you come to think of it. My brain controlled and thought of these beautiful and complex theories while my body was deteriorating second by second. People with the same
understand
disease,
that.
people with the same disease deteriorate in a matter of 2 years or whatever the doctors have given them, because that's what their mind believes.
Right.
My entire
Manifest.
my entire 55 years was my experiment into this mind body continuum, is what he's calling it, and the
Okay.
control that your mind has over your body, and in the way as to not make it die as well.
I'm sure he had to do that with the pain. I'm sure he had to experience a lot of pain.
He says there is a he's such an English gentleman. He says it is quite uncomfortable. He doesn't talk about pain. He talks about being uncomfortable. As you can very well know, as well as he says the worst part of it was my mind being fully aware and my body not responding to the impulses to feed myself or to move or to spit or everything or anything. He says that was more painful than the actual nerve response of pain to the disease.
Right. Mind is a powerful thing.
The mind is everything, he said. When you're on earth, it does control your body. And when we as humans understand the power that our thoughts and our mind have over everything and the design of your life and your death and everything in between, when humans come to that realization is when society will advance to where we can understand and help each other rather than tear each other down with war and hate.
He's got a wonderful mind. I wish he could have wrote some of that. You know?
How beautiful.
It is beautiful. For, I think, about 6 or 7 days now, I've been hearing a jingle in my head. I don't know if that was him, Eric, or who it was. And it was the jingle. It's an old commercial. Meet the Gordon's Fisherman. I don't know if you know it, but this is before I even knew I was going to talk to him, and I was hearing it and hearing it. So I looked up his name in that jingle, and I came up with one of his books. It was The Grand Design, I believe, and how he spoke about philosophy was dead. I believe he said that, but he said that we're all like goldfish in a curved fish bowl, and each one of us has a different perspective. And I wanted him to elaborate on that, knowing what he knows now, and we're all born in different places, different cultures, and the grand design, and it blows my mind, and I know he has something to say about that. I would like to hear it.
So to speak to the fishbowl is also the key to everything is your mind. You know, I'm saying that everybody's in the same fishbowl with a different experience. And here we are, I am swimming around, and my experience is to expand my awareness of not only this fishbowl, but what surrounds the fishbowl. But that is because I have allowed my mind to go beyond that and to think that there is. And then there's another fish that is swimming around, and their perspective is fear because of some experience that they have, and they keep looking for this fear to overtake them, and that's their perspective, and they can't get outside this little fishbowl because the fear has them stuck. But here we are in the same fishbowl with two different perspectives. Me outside of the fishbowl because there is, and this other perspective only the fishbowl, because for their mind, their thoughts, that is only what there is. It's all about your thoughts and your mind.
Your thoughts, mind, and your consciousness, right? Or it's both.
He says it's both. It's being aware once you have the thought of maybe that's not what I'm attracted to. You don't go back there. That kind of awareness.
Because you're learning.
Because you're evolving. He says, hopefully we're evolving. He sits back. He's just very relaxed. It's almost like a round table talk, and he says to me that this is the most relaxed he's been in an interview forever, because he was always bound by that wheelchair and
right.
The need to communicate through the computer.
I feel so honored. Thank you, Stephen, or Mr. Hawkins. I'm not sure. I keep on saying.
He said Stephen is just fine, and he just bows his head.
Oh. Okay. I never, to tell you, honestly, I did not read The Brief History in Time. I'm starting to now. I have reasons why I didn't want your perspective because I'm writing something myself. But there was an introduction that was added years later that you spoke about duality and I guess that your version of, you try to describe your version of the universe, but you spoke in that introduction, and I think actually someone wrote it for you. I'm not sure if it directly came. I think someone did it for you, but I just wanted to know if you can touch on the duality.
So, are you asking the question of the duality of the Big Bang versus the end of the Big Bang, or the big hole, the big black hole? Or are you asking the question of duality on a spiritual level? And would that be from my perspective now or from my perspective then?
I'm thinking, see, in my perspective, it's two of everything, or the Vesica Pisces is in the middle, so you've got opposites. So I don't know how to exactly answer that, except for, I guess, both. Now, I mean, what you thought then and what you think now.
So, what I thought while I was in this human experience actually did change over a course of time and a course of discoveries that I learned. But with it starting with the Big Bang Theory is what my theory was, that everything starts with that Big Bang that is the moment of creation, and then it goes all the way through until it leaves through the black hole. And the black hole is where everything ends up, and theoretically that's it. So it took me many years to go back and analyze and reanalyze and look at everything that I had believed and studied. And once my theories expanded and I realized that there were multi-universes, that this Big Bang and black hole theory is going on virtually all the time in the universe, it presented itself for duality and the ultimate of that, that even though it starts and then it ends, it starts anew and ends anew. So the beginning and the ending, the duality, the start and the end for that. On a spiritual level, to be honest with you, I knew and I believe that there was something after death. But again, that only became a clear thought to me upon many years of observing and learning and living and experiencing. I was kind of black and white at the beginning, and there is just nothing, and that's all there is. He says, but as I progressed, I realized that there had to be a meaning behind why we're here. And that the only logical explanation behind why we're here is that there is a greater oneness, a greater energy within the universe that has a full purpose. Now, from this side, I was pretty fucking smart because there's duality in everything, and every lesson is based in duality. To learn the full lesson of anything, you got to start at the moment of inception and take it all the way to its ridiculous path to understand from the beginning through the middle to the end. Everything contains duality.
Wow, I didn't expect that. You're blowing my mind again.
He looks at me and he's so calm, and he chuckles this time, and he goes, it's not so cynical over here now. I'm part of the one, the all, the universe. And he does like this, It's not as cynical as it was when I was there.
Yeah, we got some egos, don't we? Okay. Oh, he liked to. Oh, okay. I think he kind of answered that one already. And did he answer exactly who he was in the past life that influenced him?
Yes, he did. He said he was the apprentice.
Oh, that's right. Oh, how do I forget that already? I'm telling you, he's blowing my mind. Can you tell us what you were here to learn and what you, well, we can see what you taught, but just go over that.
He says, I was quite successful in what I actually came in this time expansive reality. This time expansive reality, he says, I was quite successful. You see, I came here to understand the full meaning of using what you have. Even though my body would not work, my brain, my mind, my spirit, my essence never stopped working. It was my job to never quit, to never give in. My mind was a steel trap to teach me that I could do anything and control any situation through my thoughts and my reactions. What did I come to teach everybody else is pretty obvious.
Yeah.
I would call it a successful life. I would call it a loving life. I had much love in spite of the challenges my body presented.
You had 3 beautiful kids and a wife Then you had a second wife and then went back to your first wife. I guess that was just to have a spark to renew. Did that have something to do with your longevity of your life as well?
So he said, love, wow, that's pretty profound.
Sorry.
No, he says, love equals longevity. Love never dies. The more love that you feel you can give, you can accept anytime and anywhere, any space, and particularly in the moment that you're in, will give you longevity. My first wife and I shared a particular bond that she accepted me and supported me and loved me through all the hard times, and no matter what, when I was, the little adjunct professor, rather than the big star. And then my ego honestly got in the way. And we never stopped loving each other. Hence, we reunited.
Yeah.
So I was, even though my body was, we'll call it less than, my ability to love and be loved was not.
Well, I would think as being loved also gives you that determination to never give up in your mind to overcome what you have as well. When you get over the pain or the discomfort, you know what I'm saying?
He
That it
said
helps.
that love absolutely got him through, and to look forward to having somebody to share and to, he says, really distract me from what was going on physically.
Right.
Definitely helped.
I know distraction helps a lot. Unfortunately, I have to live in pain as well, so I get that. Um, as as working with the stars and the universe, besides what we've already touched on as birthplace and the significance, is there really a significance to the zodiac signs? Actually, when I did my research, I found there was 18 back 300 years ago, and they cut it down. Is there more than 12? And is there something he can add to that?
So, he's so cute. He says, you'll never get me to disprove anything that has mathematics based, that has a mathematical base to it. And astrology absolutely has mathematical basics to its logic, he says. And was there 18? He says, yeah, 18, there's actually a little more, but when our world evolved to the 12-month system, 30 days, 12 months is when they picked and chose which constellations that they would keep for the astrological signs.
I knew it. I knew it. How about, I know you wrote about interspecies and intraspecies. I don't know how far you really got into aliens and other energy fields besides ours. Did you believe that then and now?
I absolutely believe in other energy fields. Remember, my studies and my most favorite studies is the cosmos next to mathematics. And the cosmos has its own energy fields, and all and within those energy fields they are all unique and separate. I knew the basics of that when I came over to this side. I was allowed to download the technology that allowed that. And our human brain power right now does not have the ability to wrap our minds around that type of technology. However, that will be coming at some point.
I feel it already.
Mhm.
It's going to come. Okay. I know I probably missed something, and I probably have 100 more, and I apologize. I have not read the Cosmo Energy
Did
Fields, but
he
I'm
answer
going
your question?
I think that one was a fly from my head, so I don't remember. About the aliens.
Oh
So,
yeah. He says yes, and he wanted me to. The reason I'm asking is he's reminding me to tell you that, and when you asked about his pain and discomfort, that he wants to say that he would meditate and take his mind to different places, and within those meditations, he allowed other energies to come in, that which we would call aliens and communications.
how
Yeah.
exciting.
He
He
says
was
though,
way before his time.
huh?
He was way before his time. Very intelligent.
There was no box for him basically, but what he's saying is that because I said, well, why didn't we hear about any of that? And he says
Yeah.
because decidedly that's not that's a touchy subject and not something that my backers wanted me to address.
I know he kind of ticked off some religious people, and I read that and some other things, but he was who he was, and
He said I
yes,
did not care who I ticked off. What possibly could they have done to me?
yeah.
These are
It's a rock star.
this is what he wants to say about that situation now. Those that situation, the religious, and he goes like this: people, um, they're not based in logic; they're based in emotion and things that are not um, based in anything that can be proven. Right?
I think it's a lot of fear too.
Well, that as well, but he says, you know, it couldn't affect me. What were they going to do? I couldn't control my body. I can control my thoughts. And I was who I was. And I wasn't going to be intimidated by this fear. Virtually, they couldn't ruin my reputation. They couldn't ruin my body. What could they do? So it was almost as if it was fun to taunt them.
You got the last hurrah, didn't you? Oh, I did see, I don't watch the news, but my husband does. And I saw a little scroll that says that they're going to bury you next to, I think, Sir Isaac Newton and somebody else. How, and how do you feel being honored in that way? Because you're going to be in the history books forever.
He
Just like,
says, while that is an immeasurable honor in human terms, it is far more insurmountable the fact that now I get to um, sit next to them in this energy and absorb everything that they've learned. And it is, I would like to say, quite humbling, but I am where I belong. And
yeah.
it's he feels complete is the feeling that he's given me, like yes, I did what I came to do and now I get to chill with my homies.
Or would you want to leave? So
Right.
that brings me, will you incarnate and come back?
Oh, he says maybe in another galaxy.
That would be cool.
Yeah, in another galaxy perhaps is what he said.
Yeah. Oh. Okay. How about Eric? Does he have any questions? that I didn't touch on?
All right, let's see. Because he's quiet. He's been just sitting and
Come
observing
on, Eric,
himself.
a rock star, please.
Um, so Eric's being good. He's reminding me that my roommate told me to ask a question about 0 point energy
Mm-hmm.
and anti-gravity. That will we in our lifetime, meaning me, my lifetime, see where that is a thing, where the government's, because it does exist today, right, which is the belief. And 0 point energy is where you extrapolate energy from the universe. It would not involve um, fossil fuel, light, anything, or it could be light, whatever it is, you extrapolate that energy. And they understand how to do that is the concept, but they won't allow this to happen because it would be the downfall of many financial things here, right? And that's why that question, and then of course the anti-gravity, um, uh, which would be amazing. But Stephen is telling me, he wants to say, they have already produced anti-gravity, and I just want to talk about this flight. He's showing me a flight where when his body was not acting, it was still in ALS and he couldn't move. He went on an anti-gravity flight, zero gravity flight.
Yeah, I think I read that somewhere or
And he
heard it.
said it was the most free that he had ever felt
Yeah,
in his body. So he's referring to that for the anti-gravity question, that we already have it and it has
right.
been, but to what extent that'll be allowed to use will yet to be remained. And on the other, he says, unfortunately, it's going to cause a lot of bristling back and forth because there's a lot of financial
To the power people?
power people at stake. But eventually they can't do it. Will it be in our lifetime? No. He's saying no. Not in
That
our lifetime.
reminded me of another question when the wormhole got brought up that I had. Gravitation pulls everything in, and radiation pulls everything out. And I believe that's what he was speaking about the universe and the wormhole. Both are energy that I believe works in unison with each other. Is that correct?
That's
Or no?
correct. And he says you just explained the perfect duality.
All right, I'm on target then.
Yeah, you
I
just
love it.
explained the perfect duality.
All right. Okay, Eric. I thought he would come up with something sassier than that.
No, he is. Nope, he is not. That's it.
Would he like to share anything with us, Stephen? Would he like to share any insight for us in our timeline now?
He would. Hang on. It would be my greatest hope that if anyone could take anything from the life that I had lived here on earth, known as Dr. Stephen Hawking's, it would be that your mind controls every part of your being and your experience, and that it is your greatest creator, and you choose to create what it will. It can create fear, it can create love, it can create anything that you allow. You just need to open up your mind to what experience that you want it to be. Same way with hate and love. Open up your mind to love. Open up your minds to realize that there are universes, and many universes out there, infinitely different than ours, to be explored and to offer new ideas, technologies, and situations. Fear must not take part of any of the new interactions with these new universes. There's nothing to be frightened of. And again, remember, your mind controls your entire experience. And it was a privilege and an honor to come to Earth in this time when there's so much good things going on. Hold on to that. And when you look up, think of me.
That was beautiful.
Yep.
I'm going to play that back just so I can hear it again. That was beautiful. Thank you.
He's kind and sweet and pretty scientific, you know. He's not like my guy Liberace or anybody like that. But quite amazing to be around. And thank you, everybody, for watching Coffee Talk. And we'll get to some more. I just want to tell you about my good friend Elisa Medhus, and she is channeling Eric. Eric's my guide, and I think everybody would learn a bunch of stuff just from hanging out and watching the videos and whatnot. And I'd like to thank my friend Pauline for being our co-host, and of course Dr. Stephen Hawkins and my buddy Eric. And thank you all for watching.
Thank you.
Thank you, Holly.